Hmm. Hi, Ari. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Alex. How are you?
Yeah, more or less fine. And you?
Good, good. More or less fine?
Yeah. There are disappointing news today.
Sorry, couldn't hear you right.
There are disappointing news today with the airplane that it has
Yeah,
been.
that's
Yeah,
shut down.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know more about it? Because at least here, the news haven't been reporting many details.
No, actually, no. And the problem is that here, like Ukrainian part says that it was done by pro-Russian this opposition, and those opposition, like in the morning, in the news, they wrote that they have shot two Ukrainian fighters, like, and but then they have suddenly started saying, "Oh no, we didn't fight, we didn't shot it." No, we just shot only one Ukrainian. Yeah, so it seems a little bit suspicious from their side. Yeah,
Yep.
but you never know what has happened really. That's the problem. And anyway, those people are dead.
Yeah.
That's yeah, yeah. So where are everybody?
I don't know. Let me try to add at least the other Portuguese.
Okay,
I think I just got one. Everyone else is doing something else.
okay. Uh,
Let me. I cannot add them, it seems.
I will. So I'll try again to add at
Hmm.
least. Hey, with this recording on that call, everything was okay. Yeah, but we decided to make a recording of this, and that's the first time we are trying to record this from
Oh,
us.
good.
But
So the preparation for Euros is going full speed there. It's really great that you guys are keeping up and doing such regular debates, right?
yeah, trying. But yeah, anyway, I think it's you have to really go in the tournament and hear something. So for me, it will be the first international tournament,
Mhm.
and like I am anticipating it, but I think I won't be too high there because yeah, what I saw last time when we played, that I have like a different understanding of some things, of what has to be told and what is understood by default. So such prioritization, I already
Yeah.
had such things in Ukrainian judgment. Now I think I will have it in Ukraine. One moment, it's my teammate. Алло,
Sure.
Дав, вы где? Так, чё вы не переходите? Ари уже здесь и ждем вас. Ну ладно, сейчас с Ари перейдем обратно. Слушай, он там, спроси, чего он не переходит. Так, а Ари уже здесь. Да. Так я ж в чат этого, в чат Хэнгаута, чтобы всем, кто приконнектился, скинул. Ну, подожди, вот я слышал, что он сказал, но вот я сейчас... Okay, so they have been waiting for you at that room. So they will join now. They will join now this room. So at least what they told.
It's always complicated to get everyone in the same place.
Yeah, you know, like you have to get. But at least today we had called like half an hour ago or more. We have prepared that room, and then we remembered. Okay, now let's record it, and now here. Yeah. So at least everybody.
Okay. Hello, Wari.
Hey. How are you? Good.
Fine, and you?
Great.
We started our preparation. I don't know. Send you, Victor, the motion. I'll try to type you the motion.
Okay. Oh, okay. Because Anna was telling me that this was going to be probably with people from Ukraine, Portugal, Greece, and France. So I assumed it would be BP. But you are doing American parliamentary, right?
I know that there was some problems to connect with people from other countries.
Sure.
Or there is somebody from Portugal.
Yeah, there is someone from Portugal in the other chat, but I cannot add them to this one.
We can mix a format if it's not a problem and play with them together. How many of them?
There's just one. It's just one person. Claudio. Can you see him?
Can you send
email?
Link, yeah, to me? Or his page. I will add him to circles.
Yeah, I will. Let me. Where is it?
Алло, Кирилл?
Ха-ха-ха, that's nice.
Ты просил позвонить? Или я перепутал номер? Да, прости, пожалуйста.
Ну что? Let's start preparation.
Barry, I'd like to ask you, probably if we have somebody from Portugal, we can play some kind of American parliamentary, but in one team we'll be playing 3 people or something like that. What
if Victor is okay with that and everyone is okay with that, I'm okay with that. So, like, one can do the summary, like in the instead of having the prime minister in the first prop, for example, then someone else can do, like, he can do the summary maybe. Yeah, that way you just introduce him to the arguments and so on, and maybe he can do the summary. He's going to Euros as well, so I think it would be good if he could prepare as well something.
Okay. So we need to decide for which side he'd like to play.
Yeah. I don't know.
Can you ask him?
Oh, sure. I think he's still having trouble connecting to this conversation, right?
Yes. We still don't have Victor and him.
Woohoo! Perfect.
Okay, finally. And Victor?
Yeah, we still don't have Victor.
But I have invited him here, like, several times. That's
Ari, we have met half hour before. I promise you, but we're still managing it. Maybe next time we will start really exactly.
Okay, I think we should leave it like this. Like, our computers permanently on Google Hangouts. Like, next
Yeah.
time it's going to be perfect.
Come on.
We can just wake up, say hello to each other.
We have Claudio.
almost. We had him almost.
Okay. I turn off my microphone and I gonna prepare to do the discussion because we are government with Pavel. And Ari, did you know the topic?
Yeah, I do. Let me see if Claudio is going to be on op or gov. I'll just call him. Maybe it's better.
Okay.
So he can prepare with either gov or op. Cell phones seem to work better than Google Hangouts. Está. Já viste a moção?
Паша, уходим в Skype.
Да, уходим. Нам просто нужно решить, с кем будет играть этот парень.
А, в смысле...
Já viste a moção? Esta casa acredita que os jogadores brasileiros deveriam ter
Леша,
boicotado
вы согласны с мальчиком? Нужно
Copa do Mundo?
подготовиться, чтобы он анализ у вас сделал.
Да, не вопрос.
Queres
Что, мы
ser
тогда ушли.
do governo ou da oposição?
А Виктор с вами будет или он...
Виктор будет судить. Виктор судит.
Я его добавить сюда, что он не добавляется вопрос.
Pronto, é que eles estão a perguntar o que é que tu queres, portanto eles vão tentar em primeiro lugar inserir um grupo mais pequeno, que é o grupo de discussão da moção. E depois provavelmente é que te tentam meter no outro. Para qual é que queres? Vamos para o governo. Ou mais para o governo, pronto. Aleatoriamente. É que estou aqui assim com as pessoas do governo, portanto é capaz de ser mais fácil. Portanto, governo para isto. Portanto, começas a pensar porque é que eles deviam ter boicotado isto, está bem? Ok, um abraço, Deus. Governments. So, maybe you can add them to your little conversation.
What? Victor? Oh yeah, Ari, please repeat.
Can you add Claudio to the conversation on the motion? Please
let Claudio send us his Skype.
Skype? Okay.
Okay.
Let me see. I think I have his Skype.
Okay. You have my Skype also, yeah?
I think so.
Yes, send me it. And turn off your microphone. Uh-huh. Oh, Claudio.
Yeah.
Perfect. Claudio, now let's send me your Skype login. Please. I can tell it like, oh, Victor!
Yay!
Great, finally.
Claudio? Okay, Claudio.
Finally, guys.
Yeah, great.
Hello?
Claudio, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Please send me your Skype account, and we will start preparation for government line in Skype.
Thank you. Sending to you now.
In group chat. And now we're gonna turn off our microphones in Hangout, but only in Hangout.
Ну, да.
It's fantastic technologies.
М,
You have sent it somewhere.
мгм.
Oh, so long one.
Не знаю. Сейчас я вимкну мікрофон, тому що не хочу.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna manage it.
Ari,
Yeah.
so you are a judge today or a player today? I'm sorry.
Uh, I think neither. I will at least I should be like a maybe a wing judge or maybe not even that, just an observer.
Okay.
But because it's perhaps better if Victor can judge by himself, it can surely give you feedback right away, and so maybe you can save time. But I don't know what Victor thinks.
Yeah.
I'm fine with judging in the panel. That's not a problem. We can give separate calls. That's not even a big issue. I mean, feel free to give any feedback you feel is appropriate.
Okay, I'm fine with that suggestion. So I'll try.
Also, hi.
I'll be judging in a panel when you can have different calls or something like that. If that if that's the case, either way we will give. I think I'll be able to give you some feedback.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
How are you, by the way, Victor?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. How are things going for Cork?
Pretty good so far. There isn't really a counter bid that I'm aware of. Our bid is pretty solid, so I think we are, we have stand a pretty good chance.
Yeah. Well, last year there was a turn of events just a few weeks prior to the event itself, so
I know
there
it
could
was.
be some exciting stuff. No, I don't. Not that I know of anything, but.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not willing to say right now that we got it made. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Like as long as as long as there's another bid at the council, it's still up for grabs. So
Sure.
I don't want to jinx it.
Well, good luck anyway.
Thank you. So Ari, what are you doing right now? Are you studying?
Yeah, I'm doing my PhD, so I'm about to finish, I guess. I'm in my last year of PhD.
You're at Oxford, right?
No, I was at Oxford 2 years ago, but
I think we got muted. I think we're in the way. The central authority muted us. Big Brother does not approve of our conversation. Now let's just chill until these guys are ready to start.
Listen, hello, bird. I bet you never get the princess. I will get her. I will. You big boy. What? All is yours, but the day shall be mine, just like you, princess. Mine. What a cute. Thanks for saving the day. Once again, boy. You're welcome, princess. I'm gonna go eat you a party. Meet at the Candy Kingdom tonight. I just thought I'd bring her a gift in return for throwing up this party.
I bet you wish you were my butt.
What?
I bet you wish you were my butt because then the princess, you know, no wait. I bet you wish you were the Ice King and the princess were my butt.
What?
Oh, I bet you wish Bubblegum would kiss you too, like the Ice King and my butt.
That's ridiculous. What's the fun? Hey, everybody. And Jacob is.
Who's ready to party?
What's everyone laughing at?
This time with massage is called friend massage because it can only be done for friends. It is completely consensual. Now, relax yourself now, lovely space princess.
Party goers. Glad you could all make it. Bubblegum. Princess, I just wanted to thank you for.
My God, you gotta suck up that stupid guy. Oh my God, I don't even know. Because you like your. I've been waiting all evening to meet you, princess. I've heard you appreciate ancient technology. Have you ever used the belt furnace laser to align the hypernautic systems to the strong backboard formation?
Whoa, no, I haven't. Sit on the dance floor?
It's the D-line.
Why didn't the princess invite me to dance?
You want to dance? Just go dance.
But now she's dancing with them.
I feel weird. Sounds like you're dealing with new emotions you don't understand. Like jealousy. Look, man, just go out there and get down. More your later, it's completely independent of the
Oh, that's the thing that the balloon would fluctuate with the Piranha Nanosphere.
correct.
You're talking about science, man. I can't do with that.
Do the science dance. Remember it? It was sort of like this. Think that'll work? Yeah, probably. Do it, man. You're a pro.
Science dance. Science dance. Science dance. Hey, princess. You want to spend some time with me?
Excuse me, princess. You must be.
Oh, all right. Then.
Well, what's that baffle at? But this is the Torino said this would be the baffle at it. It's like immortal said, small arms fire. But escalated. I think I've sort of had a few warnings over Crimea when Russia was directly or seeming to be drifting on. But now you have this part further up the eastern part of Ukraine. No one's really realized the severity of the sliding slope of violence that's taken place until this terrifically awful event.
Our senior White House correspondent, Jim Acosta, is joining us also with some more information on the communications, I think, between Russia and the U.S. Jim, what are you hearing?
Actually, Anderson, I want to point out that the Vice President traveling in Detroit today. I just got off the phone, according to the White House, with Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko. He's offering assistance to the Ukrainians, obviously.
Okay, great. We are ready. Sorry, guys, for such long preparation time. Victor, are you okay?
Yeah, just a second.
you just take a nap during our preparation time.
I was watching cartoons actually.
Okay, we have Claudia. We still don't have Dasha and Alexei.
I'll call them on mobile phone.
Yeah, it's more simple other on the mobile phone. You know, guys, that me, I located now in Dnipropetrovsk, Pavel in Odessa, Losha in Odessa, and Dasha in Kiev.
Do you guys have any news on the Malaysian flight that crashed?
Yes, we have news that all democratic and all normal news pointed this idea about attacking by these terrorists, which who has special
No, sorry.
against flight complex, and all
Hello?
Russian news telling that they can do it and that Ukrainian government managed it. That's the whole news.
I'm pretty sure Malaysian Airlines is like, we don't care who did it as long as nobody blames us.
Yes.
I think the problem here actually is that why Malaysian Airlines didn't change their route. They were flying over that part of country for the whole time while this conflict is ongoing.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that's what they've been saying on the news right now. A lot of flights are actually going over Ukraine. So this is the first time that there was never an issue like that the plane crashes. But like ever since the crisis started, planes have been flying over Ukraine and Russia without a problem.
No, I'm speaking about this region because many of planes which are coming even from Russia to Turkey or from Amsterdam, they are coming through Odessa, through Kiev, through like central and western part. And there are only several planes. I have been checking on this flight radar. There are not so many planes that are coming through Donetsk and
Probably for them it's more shorter way, and secondly they was flying on the safe altitude, so nobody was thinking that they can fall.
Okay, we still need Dasha, Claudio, and Ari.
I'm here actually.
Claudio also, Ari.
I'm here.
So
I'm
let's
here.
start.
We don't have our judge. We have
Ari
one.
also here, and Victor.
Yeah, I'm here. And
Okay.
Victor is here too, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, Ari, you can manage your timekeeping.
Sure.
How much time we have?
7 minutes, right? It's 77733, right? Good.
There's the motion just in case. And I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, the Prime Minister can feel free to start.
Okay, great. Thank you, dear speakers, our judges, for such great opportunities to have debating about this interesting topic. And this House believes that Brazilian footballers should have boycotted the World Cup, and we should clarify our position from the beginning. Of course, we are footballers, and firstly, we understand that even if we boycotted this World Cup, the World Cup goes on even without us. We understand that, and we understand that in some way, and we're gonna prove this, our boycotting it's more important sign, even if World Cup going without us. And second idea, which we're gonna to start, that in general all Brazilians footballers treat ourselves. We think that we are in more cases we are Brazilian, and only in second cases we are footballers. That's 2 points which from the beginning. And firstly, why in general we have this problem? Why we think that in some way we should boycott this football? Because after whole preparation period, we have known that Brazil spent a lot of money billions and billions dollars for preparation this World Cup. And the most horrible thing that all this preparation, all this fantastic spending, we are going on the background of fantastic poverty of our people. Our people are in poverty, and it's the horrible idea that some people from UEFA earning a lot of money and evaluating income from World Cup is gonna be 1 billion and 400 millions earning of UEFA, and we spend money on the background of our poverty, and we think that we are as an icon, we are as a stars of Brazilian society. We should show that it's not normal, that it's horrible idea when we that we earn so much money on this one. And in general, we should know that in Brazilian society we have strong link between escaping from poverty for small children and professional football career. A lot of our talented Brazilians escaped from poverty only using by football, and now we have opposite way, that football take out money from our society, and we think that we should protest it against it, and we should boycott World Cup. Second idea is that we should prove that our participating will not solve any problems. Even if we will win World Cup, it just whitewash all our problems and all our government's mistakes. And we think we have already won 5 times World Cup, and it didn't solve any problems. We still have poverty, we still have unfair spending of our income, and we think if we at least once boycott this football cup, it will show it will highlight more our problems, and we hope it will solve a lot of our problems. As idea, we are, as a footballers, we don't really like to play without supporting by our society, and what we have now, more than 60% of our football fans are against this World Cup. We really expect to have no support on the stadium. We really expect to have people who really against us, our Brazilians, and we don't like to show our solidarity with UEFA. We would like to show our solidarity with Brazilians and with our fans. For us, our opinion is more important than opinion of some governments, or for example of Cristina Kirchner. Oh, it's from Argentina, sorry. And other idea, even some popular people also boycotted this, but they boycotted by not buying or just not coming to the World Cup. We know example of Paulo Coelho, who even bought these tickets, but then he saw how our society still live. He talked to ordinary people, and he told, no, I can't just have joy and fun about World Cup when a lot of people has poverty and has no money to the future. And that's a great example to show, to highlight our problems. And that's a really important moment, but because when we boycott this game during World Cup, when all world looking for on Brazil, we have more possibilities to earn our goal to change our society. It's a really crash moment. If we push our idea forward exactly now, it's more chances to change our society to the better future. And as idea, by this action, we would like to show that we would like to pay attention about distribution of income. As we have already mentioned, UEFA earned a lot of money. They earned more than $1 billion on our World Cup, and we have only debts and we have only spending. We will have some stadiums, of course, but we don't need so many stadiums. That's why we think we should our national team should boycott World Cup. Thank you for your attention.
You still have 20 or 40 seconds.
It was 2 ring bells. I think I have already finished. Yeah, and about general ideas about how important our message, how powerful it is. It will be mentioned by Claudio. He will explain this idea more directly. And I would like to repeat in the end of my game. Of course, we understand that World Cup will go on even without our team, but we think that it's more powerful sign to boycott. Even it's more powerful even if we will win this World Cup, and that's why we're asking you vote for this for our idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, we thank the Prime Minister. And we call upon next the Leader of Opposition.
Hello, colleagues, and I would like to start with a small question. How much money does footballists earn? As you may know, footballists, as well as other known people and famous people, they earn much money. They earn so much money that regular people who are just working every day from 9 till 12 o'clock at the night, they cannot even imagine such amount of money. And the idea of our team is that you have to do and not to talk or to highlight something. So what have been our opponents talking about? They told that first of all, they say that Brazil spent much money for football. So actually, my question is, why didn't those Brazilian team boycotted those spending of money and not boycotting now when those money have already spent? If they wanted to show that this money are spent for nothing and that this money has to be distributed to other part of citizens, I would boycott those. They had to boycott those buildings, those spending, and they had to boycott at the time when it was decided that Brazil will handle that championship. Now let's say about the paying attention to wrong distribution of income. Again, if we come to my first question, we can see that that amount of money that is received by footballists and that is received by normal people is different. So what we are saying is that you have to start from yourself. You have to give a good example. And if we say that, okay, our corruption and problems in our country are so big and nobody cares about it, then at least we have to care. Then what we could propose to those teams in order not to boycott is that they could just earn that money and give biggest part of that money to people, or give at least some part of that money to people, and then earn more and give more, and that is what would really help. Because let's now think about what happens if we do boycott this championship. First of all, as our opponents told, nothing would change in the meaning of championship. Championship would still go, will still continue without our team. But let's now think what will happen with our team. With our team, we will have no factor of uniting nation. Because look, we have now reached, or we can reach a pretty high level of game. And while doing this, as every sport, and especially as such a popular sport in our country, our nation gets united, forgetting all this poverty, gets united and motivated to do something more. As our opponents have told, the gap between actually becoming a footballer is not so hard in Brazil. So that can give another motivation to young people not to go smoking, not to go to some criminal, but really to make sport, to develop themselves. And all the nation will be united over that idea. But what will happen if we boycott? This unition won't happen. And what will happen with our team? So first of all, if we are saying that if we are looking on an experience of our team, we will lose experience without playing one world championship, and we will increase the gap between our current state and the state of experience of our concurrents. Also, if we look from the money point of view, those money that we could give to poor people, then we can say that we all have contracts, we all have sponsors as a team. If we fail, if we boycott, then those contracts will be stopped, we won't get money, and we won't have any possibility to help other people, even if we want to do this. And let's think about another state of money. This situation or participation in a world championship is a great way to show yourself to some European or Americans or world-known teams, and to be transferred for a high amount of money which we can get. And because that, as our government says, we are first of all Brazilians and then footballers, then we can spend those money on helping people, on giving those on social projects and improving situation in our country. Because as a popular people, as a famous people, and as those people about whom everybody speaks, and also our government supports us as a football team, we can actually influence our world and influence our government. So what we are saying is that in spite of just boycotting and doing nothing, which is the easiest way to say, hey, I got my money, I got my millions, now I will just say that I'm against all those poverty. We have actually to do something for our people, to give money, to invest to social projects, to invest to our economy, and to improve the situation in our country. So that's why we're saying that boycotting of this of the championship by our team is a bad idea. Now again, if we come to another point that we didn't have any support of our people, then still you could see how disappointed were our people and how they have been supporting or how they will support the team during the championship because of that uniting factor. And if we do this, then we will still have our support. If we do some good result, which we have shown previously, and which we can show again, we can give people hope that something can have changed. And this championship is a good way to make promotion of those ideas, because at the end of those championship, at the end of our game, independently of the results, whether we will win or will lose, we can say that that okay, we are playing, but we are playing not just for money. We are playing for all those society. We are playing for all those things that we want to improve, and then people will listen us. Otherwise, if we just boycott and if we ruin hopes of our people, at least to enjoy the game and to hope for our country, then we can do nothing. So we have to do and improve life in our country, and not just say that we want to do that. Thank you very much.
Okay, we thank the leader. The leader of opposition. That's right. And we call upon next to speak the Deputy Prime Minister.
Are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, dear colleagues. Let me just start my presentation by saying, by referring to something that the opposition has been saying, that basically what they are looking for here is that they're not worried about the World Cup itself. They're not worried about anything of what the government has presented. They're worried that footballers should be people of charity. They're talking about charity here. They're saying that footballers should give their own money, that the clubs pay them, to the poor people of Brazil so that they wouldn't have any problems against the World Cup. So this makes absolutely no sense. We're not just talking about charity here. We're talking about welfare. We're not talking about the footballers here. We're not talking about the individuality. We're talking about the collective. We're talking about the Brazilian state and its incapacity to actually serve the Brazilian people, of which these footballers are also citizens, and that's the point we try to bring on here. Now, what the government in fact tried to say very clearly is why is it better for our people? Why is it better for the footballers to boycott the World Cup that is held precisely in Brazil? And what we are trying to say here is, unlike the opposition that is saying that that they should not play for money, they should play for honor, it's precisely because of honor that they should not play at all. It's precisely because the World Cup has turned in such a whirlpool of corruption, has turned in such a whirlpool of legal, dubious situations of corruption that, in fact, the footballers should be the first to set the example. And as my previous colleague very well said, and which I will develop, is the concept of whitewash. The expectations of the Brazilian people, as they have proven before the World Cup, is to have more hospitals. It's not to have the FIFA standard World Cup stadiums. It's to have the hospitals, FIFA standard hospitals, FIFA standard schools. That's what the Brazilian people wants. That's what the Brazilian people desires. It's not to enjoy the show of the World Cup, because when the show ends, the stadiums will be left behind. The corruption will remain. The spending of the state, uncontrolled and unchecked, will still remain. So what are we talking about here? Is that the World Cup, it is better for the Brazilian football players to boycott precisely because they can set an example. They will not be a part of an attempt, like the government did, to whitewash the problem. As my colleague said, Brazil has won the World Cup 5 times. They have solved no problems. It just diverted people, distracted people from what the reality of their own country was. Protests were there before the World Cup, will remain after the World Cup. Why? Because the problems are still there. So we cannot allow that the Brazilian football team can be part of a whitewash. We cannot allow them to divert the people like a sweet candy that tastes good for a while and then disappears. The fact is, if the Brazilian World Cup had given an example and boycotted the World Cup, it would have made the Brazilians question more. It would have made people to be more demanding. People would ask questions, why did they not play? And people would dig deeper into the corruption, into the spending, and into the abuses that took on in this World Cup. I mean, did you know that I can cite about a dozen of Brazilian laws that were simply set aside particularly for the World Cup. There is a beer ban on stadiums. You cannot sell beer in Brazilian stadiums because of security issues. Quite a good law. For the World Cup, because Budweiser is one of the main sponsors, that bill was simply set aside. A special bill was drafted, and that particular bill completely set aside all Brazilian legislation about that particular matter. Why? To please sponsors, FIFA sponsors. So we could say very well, that is not corruption, this is just economy matter. This is just about profit. This is just about making money so that the Brazilian state can have more hospitals, more schools, right? No, because why? As my colleague very well said, once the World Cup ends, FIFA goes away and takes all the money. Brazil spends, Brazil invests, builds stadiums. That's very good. What happens afterwards? The World Cup kicks in, FIFA takes over, FIFA explores it. Once the World Cup is out, FIFA goes out of Brazil and takes the money with them. So there is no advantage in profit. And in fact, why is it even more positive for the economy for Brazil boycotting the World Cup? I don't know if you've noticed, but when Brazil lost to Germany, the stock market in São Paulo opened the next morning, and it valued. The stock market went up. Why? Because the investors were hoping for political change in Brazil now that the national team was out of the World Cup, and now that Brazilians could see, in fact, what was going on. So we have the actual proof that the economy itself reacted positively to Brazil, the national team, being out of the World Cup. Now imagine if this had happened not because Germany set them out, but imagine if this had been done because Brazil's citizens, Brazil's footballers, wanted to pass a message of solidarity, a message of engaging with the people and being at the side of the people, not in the streets, being at the side of the people in the football pitch by refusing to go in there. As we also said, the World Cup would go on, no one would have a sorry spectacle, they wouldn't have suffered 7-1 loss to Germany, they wouldn't have had such difficulties with Holland, so it would have been a win-win situation for everyone, even for Chile, Even for I'm forgetting if it's possible, to Colombia, it would have been better for everyone, and it would have been better at the end for Brazilians, because when the World Cup ends, the problems are still there, and would have been very positive just to think. Imagine if we had had a situation where Brazil had won the World Cup. No one would be questioning the problems that right now go on in Brazil. Dilma Rousseff would still have a popularity margin with more 20% than what she has right now. The stock market would have reacted so positively. And the fact is, people will be distracted, but the problems will still be there. And the fact is, if Brazil had taken this message right from the start, if the national team had set right there in favor to the people, who knows if that political change wouldn't have happened already, if the civil society wouldn't have pressured even more for more transparency, more change, because that's what matters. This is not about shuffling money into the problem. This is about checks and balances. This is about oversight. This is about control. This is about transparency and responsibility. And this is all a message that the Brazilian people tried to take to the streets, and would have had a beautiful culmination with the national team supplying that particular message. Not money, message. It's welfare, not charity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. And would like to ask the Deputy Leader of Opposition to, I guess, close this debate.
Okay, hello guys, thanks for this wonderful opportunity and for this extremely interesting topic. And I will start from the question that we have. For example, our opponents raised the question whether it was wise or not from the side of Brazil to take this championship. Maybe no. Maybe it is better to have hospitals and schools. And whether Brazil has lots of political problems with control, with distribution of wealth and so on, obviously yes. But in this particular game, we should play in the real circumstances. We already have a situation. The decision to accept this championship have already been taken. Money have already been spent, and they cannot be taken back by our actions as footballers. And we are in the situation when we can make an absolutely senseless sacrifice that will not change anything or will have a really low probability of changing anything, and I will prove you this, and getting at least something for all those billions spent. It's not about good championship or bad championship, good Brazilian politics or not. It's about choice in a bad situation. And our opponents were talking about win-win situation. No, this boycott is a lose-lose situation. Our nation have spent money, our nation will not get all those hospitals and schools, and from the other hand, our nation will lose all those benefits, even if they do not overweight costs, but they still exist, and getting at least something is far and far better than getting nothing. So now I am going to tell you why this sacrifice is senseless. Because, as our opponents have already told, the 60% of people were already against, and there were huge protests and so on. So if in the situation when majority of population is already against, if there are huge protests, and if all that hasn't stopped and hasn't changed the situation, the probability that our sacrifice will change anything is not really high. Because if government can just ignore a position of majority of population that can vote against them on next elections, they can easily ignore position of 20 or 30 people, I mean, together with all those trainers and so on. So we think that probability of changing situation to better way is not high. Moreover, there are lots of other ways, I mean, are participating in the championship, we actually gain far more opportunities to attract attention and to attract the world attention to our position, because our plays will be translated by TV to the whole world. We can find ways, for example, some flash mobs at the beginning or at the end of the game. I do not know, some our fans can go with some placards or some talking something or something like that. Together with fans, we can do some things that will attract attention when all the world will look at us. But if we boycott, yes, people will talk about it 5 minutes or 5 days and will forget about it, and all people all over the world will just will be watching football anyway and will be thinking about their native teams, and in a week no one will forget about, or no one will remember about our Brazilian football team. So participation gives the more stage and the more capacity for attracting attention to our position. Moreover, money gained give at least some opportunity to do yes, maybe some small projects, but something real. Because boycott is without any guarantees of any effect, but money, I mean million or 10 million that can be invested in social programs, yes, it's not really big, but we are sure that we will have it and we will get at least something for our society. Moreover, as we have already mentioned, it will bury the dream of young children to escape from poverty through football, because the national football will be damaged severely by this act. Our careers as footballists will be damaged severely, because the next World Cup will be in 4 years, and some footballists may retire till that time. Some young footballists will lose the opportunity to demonstrate themselves and to get to European clubs, to become more and more popular and more influential, to attract attention to all those problems and so on. Regarding the effects on stock market and so on, come on, there are so much facts influencing stock markets, and it's only your guesses about that there is a correlation between this game and the situation on the stock market. And we believe in the fact that the position of footballists can be demonstrated in other ways, not making senseless sacrifice, because we will not get this money back anyway. And yes, we have problems in Brazilian society and we should cope with it, but it's not an act of a day. It will be a process of maybe even decades of social and political reforms. And that's why we should make the continuous efforts, not just the one boycott. Boycott, it is too easy. Day by day efforts are much valuable. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the deputy opposition. I'd like to thank everybody. I think, are we pretty much done with this debate?
Usually in American parliamentary there are summary speeches, but I don't know if you want to have them.
Yeah.
I forgot that this is AP actually. So yeah, absolutely, yeah. Why not? So in that case, I welcome the leader of opposition. Am I right?
Yeah.
Leader of opposition. Feel free to summarize.
Okay, hello again, colleagues, and I would like to point out, pay attention to the most important questions that have been raised in these games. And from my point of view, there are three such questions. So, first one is that I called responsibility versus charity. The second one is a question whether footballists can change something and way how to do it. And the third question is about effectiveness of the way. So let's start with the first one, responsibility versus charity. Deputy Prime Minister told that we are speaking about charity itself, and that charity is something not important, and that we shouldn't do it and shouldn't pay attention because we are responsible people and we want to change something in our world. But what we are saying is that boycotting, and what we have been repeating several times, is that boycotting itself is only saying. As Prime Minister told, it is paying attention. But let me say you such thing. If we look on all developing countries, and if we look on reaction of already developed countries, we can see that everybody knows about corruption in Brazil. Everybody knows about corruption in Ukraine, in Russia, and in all other countries. But nobody cares about it. Nobody cares because it is only our people. It is only we who can really do something. And what we are saying is that it is not responsibility versus charity. It is responsible charity. We need to be responsible. That's why we have to invest in our society and we have developed our society. Next thing about charity is that the way we do. How our government sees this question is that we just give money for something, like, you know, if you go on a street and say just, hey, please here $1 for you. No, what we are saying is that we need to change our society. We need to create social projects. We need to make social advertisement against corruption and against sin. And if we can't, even if we can't change the system itself, we should change those parts that we are capable of. And what we are saying, the more if we have resources for this, and please, a small reminder, our footballists earn $30 million per year, $15 million per year, $10 million per year. That are pretty much money that we can invest. So we think that we need to be responsible by doing something, by doing the charity and by investing to the social project. Next question is that whether it is effective method to make a boycott or not. And our government says yes, just because everybody will see it. But what we are saying is that if we do play and if we say that we pay attention to these problems, also everybody will see it. But this effect will be much more. If people, after hoping for our win or for our lose, will listen to us and we will say that please pay attention to this problem, if we will continuously invest in our society after each game, saying that we have invested in this project, we have built this hospital or another hospital, then things will change, and not just after saying or boycotting on one day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, previous speaker. And now we call upon the Prime Minister to summarize again. Also, I would just like to point out that I've only now realized that we've tried to give POIs in the chat box. Didn't really notice that, so we'll have to work on that later on. But before that, the Prime Minister, feel free to close the government's case. Summarize.
So, just to be clear on one thing, are summary speeches allowed to have POIs?
I don't think so. No, in AP neither. Yeah. Also, yeah, there's no protected minute. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this debate. So, our opponents lots of times said that their position is about not saying, but about doing something. We believe that boycotting participation in football cup, it's also doing. Yes, probably it's some kind of passive action, but it's already action. It's very powerful action, as we were talking before. In my summary speech, I will be talking about two main points things. Firstly, who should solve problem, and then I try to analyze which would be effects of participation and boycotting. So firstly, about who should solve problems. And opposition believes that in this debate that footballers should solve problems, they should earn money and spend their money on solving problems. Firstly, we believe that it's wrong. This debate is not about this, not about charity and about welfare. And secondly, we believe it's also not mutually exclusive to them to boycott and help with the charity to solve some kind of problems. But what is important, even if they spend their salaries on the kind of charity, it won't be enough to solving all Brazilian problems. It won't be enough to solve all problems, to solve problem of corruption and also problem of poverty, because we're comparing billions which government already spent on conducting World Cup and with millions which they earn. And it's also uncomparable things, and we believe by this gesture footballers should warn all governments not to spend, not to waste monies on these useless events. And also let's analyze about what would be if they participate and if they boycott. And opposition believes that if they participate, it's a kind of more powerful gesture, it would help them more. For example, they were talking, when they would be participating, they can conduct some kind of flash mob. We believe that boycotting of participation in World Cup by national teams is very great flash mob. Secondly, why we believe that participation is very bad? Because when they were talking, when they will be participating, they can pay attention to kinds of problems and so on. We think it's wrong, because as Deputy Prime Minister explained you, that when they would participate in World Cup, during World Cup and after World Cup, it would become some kind of whitewash, because all politicians would be whitewashing all problems which moves on and so on. And also we believe that this participation won't pay attention to the unbuilt stadiums and so on. The opposition were talking that participation would help create some kind of children dream through through football to go from poverty to wealthiness and so on. But we believe why wrong participation? Because while participating, footballers, is it all time or?
Yeah, it's 3:20.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's 3.
that's
I was thinking that it's 7.
No, the final one is 3.
Well, thank you. We thank the Prime Minister. Okay, guys. Just to make one thing, to point out one thing. There is a huge storm here at where I am, so I've lost connection during the whip speech of the government, so I didn't really hear what Kirill was talking about in his last speech. So sorry about that. I'm gonna rush it.
It is a huge storm in the world.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rush this a bit just so I don't lose connection again.
Okay.
What I'm gonna do is, Ari, you would probably agree with me that this one is sort of a gov bench. Okay, so it wasn't going out on a limb. So can you guys hear me? Just to clear, can you guys hear me? Fine, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you guys for an interesting debate. That was pretty good. So my impression is that the government won. There is 2 types of arguments that showed up on the government bench. One type of arguments that happened were moral. The other were sort of mechanical ones, sort of the ones that predict what would the effects be of this particular boycott. What I think is the opposition sort of the more substantially better explained moral arguments one, never really establishing the importance of football for the Brazilian culture, in order for us to have a discussion of why, despite the sort of immoralities of how to organize the World Cup, they should have still played. So what I think the proposition does is create an array of these more arguments saying that, look, so much money has been embezzled amidst all the poverty that's happening in Brazil. This is morally outrageous enough for the players not to play. We have, so then that's one part. The second part is that we have allowed FIFA to change our laws, steal a lot of taxpayers' money because they own particular sponsorships that get monopoly during the World Cup. This too is immoral enough on the grounds that these things we are not going to play because the way the World Cup has been handled in and of itself is reprehensible, and that alone is reason enough not to play. So the opposition would really need to then engage a bit in how does FIFA operate, how is it maybe financially beneficial for Brazil, even though a lot of money was sort of misused or not necessarily embezzled, but used on projects that are not going to be worthless. So sort of like talking, the stories about how investors might show up and how this is a great advertising for Brazil. So you need to like engage with the horrors of a FIFA-led World Cup. I think a particularly interesting argument, one that I like very much, is the idea of whitewashing, and I think that the proposition pretty much nails this argument. One, noticing that Brazil has won the World Cup 5 times, and it really didn't have any societal effect in terms of changing the political and economic institutions from extractive to more inclusive ones. The other thing is you sort of illustrate how a danger of Brazil winning the World Cup in and of itself could be a reason not to participate, because if Brazil won, and they had, I think, pretty good chances of winning, then this turns into like the euphoria of victory, and it sort of legitimizes the president's, the Dilma Rousseff's regime, and this creates the danger of then sort of perpetuating this national myth of Brazil being a place of football gods, and nobody really focuses on the societal issues that are happening. So I think that when you talk about moral arguments, you guys sort of picked the right strategy in terms of you clearly say, look, we sold our country to FIFA and special interests within our country. These have mismanaged, funds coming from taxpayers to do nothing much than to enrich sponsors and FIFA itself. It is reprehensible that this would be done amidst the fact that we have so many people whose basic needs are not met, and we're just not going to play in those circumstances. That's a pretty clear argument. It's a good strategy to do. It's at least obvious and easy. I mean, it's easy in terms of sort of like being obvious how it works, but you think you guys still explained a lot of stuff pretty good. Whitewashing, I thought, was really good. And I like the Paulo Coelho, story. I think it did put in like a bit of a human touch of storytelling rather than just being pure information. The other part of your argument, I think you should spend more time, because it's the harder one, but it also is a very important one when you discuss the mechanics of it. So if Brazil, so we have two moments. Brazil boycotts because it's the right thing to do, on purely and moral grounds. But then there is Brazil footballers boycott because this is going to have specific effects on society. And this is a bit harder, but something that you can argue successfully. So whitewashing, I think, was a good one. That is the dangers of victory. But the other one was this boycott will have such strong resounding, such strong resonance that it can influence changing, basic structure of society. That is, instituting oversight, more pluralism, etc. So I think this mechanism needs to be analyzed a bit more. That is, how the government mechanism works. How exactly it, manages to thrive on relative ignorance or anonymity of this particular government, and why sort of the boycott would have played out as a support of all the protesters that are working working to sort of debunk the government, for a kleptocracy that it really is. Providing that, I think you should also do a bit more in describing how exactly is the status quo in Brazil, or how do kleptocracies work? Coming from Eastern Europe, we're pretty much well educated in how oligarchies, use so-called democratic regimes to enrich themselves and disenfranchise the majority. So what I would say is, I think on moral grounds, that was good arguments. On mechanism grounds, I think the whitewashing was pretty good, but then the structural changes of the boycott need a bit more explanation. What would have helped is give us further details of the status quo. So use sort of much more time to state the obvious things about Brazil. Even though we sort of all know that it's a country that has structural problems, tell us exactly how those structural problems work, how they disenfranchise, and then how football is used to manipulate this image and sort of hide it.
Right.
Before I go to opposition, if anybody has questions, or Ari, if you'd like to add something.
Yeah, I think that's something that could help you as well, is try to structure your reply in terms of different stakeholders that would receive this message. So you presented this argument as an, okay, we are sending a powerful message, but we are sending it to whom? And if you answer this question, maybe you could structure it. So you are sending it to the Brazilian people itself, you are sending it to the government, you are sending it to other countries and other players that could join you in the protests. You are sending it to future hosts, namely future hosts in emerging economies. And if you try to answer these questions and structure your replies, maybe that could help you develop a more detailed answer and analysis to your points.
Right.
And just shortly, I think the using the stock market and the prices going up from Brazil losing is a bit dodgy, just to say. I thought it was a cool example, but I don't think it really was very convincing to say that's how it worked. But, good try. But other than that, I thought it was good. So what I think the opposition does is, I think you sort of try and give this alternative of how football players should engage. Boycott is sort of easy. They're taking the easy way out. It's better that they play, earn money, give charity. So always you want to check whether or not the alternative you're presenting is or isn't mutually exclusive. So under the status quo, football players made quite a lot of money, give or take, the World Cup, but this money, necessarily wouldn't help that much. They can still, give their own purses from the clubs they play, and it's not mutually exclusive. It's not sort of mutually exclusive with the boycott. Some of the others, you have to be a bit careful about sort of the impact about the alternatives you're presenting. So I think, first of all, just to mention, every opposition should, always offer alternatives. You can think of ones. That's a good way to sort of counterprop without counterpropping. But it gives the burden to the proposition of dealing with the alternatives you've presented, and you're defending the status quo when alternatives are what the status quo is. But be careful a bit about the gravity of the alternatives you choose. So sort of there will be careers in jeopardy of old players and young players, which is true. But in the grand scale of things, of will this change society or not, it isn't really that important. That's sort of something you would want to make in the beginning of, like, this is one of the consequences of our of your proposition, and not really not really give too much time about it. So you have to watch for mutual exclusivity. But you want to focus on always as opposition, and you kind of did. But you have to focus on this very very energetically. That is, what are the horrible harms coming from your proposition? So it's always sort of a cost-benefit analysis from side opposition. You say, look, there are plenty of alternatives that are working. However, even if these alternatives didn't exist, your proposition is a horrible idea. Sort of, if you're going to say that football is a uniting force for Brazil, then you need to sort of load that scenario and that setting, to be much more convincing. You have to say, look, this is what football means for Brazil, like a country that's never been at war with any other country, really, and sort of like uses football as the only means of sort of national cohesion. It's also very important, at least in part, to preserve this myth of success through football, because otherwise society could collapse. You could have a revolution. You sort of want to talk about that a bit more, because if football is a national sort of thing of national unity, it could be of great risk if they boycott, how it would be interpreted. So you sort of want to front load that particular harm. So there is also some stuff. This kind of goes for both teams. You talk about there's going to be low probability of change. So, if you boycott now, the money is already spent. We're going to be essentially wasting all this money, and that's a sacrifice because low probability of change. Now, this is where opposition can do the same thing proposition does, or if proposition misses to do it, and that is give us a detailed analysis of the status quo. Why are the structural problems of Brazil so huge that football is not going to change them? Or, this particular act, the gesture by the Brazilian football players could be, in fact, misinterpreted or used against them. So more explanation on what Brazil is as a country, what it looks like. Just as an idea, strategy-wise, so like I said, you guys, alternatives are very important for you as a team. One of the ideas we have is why not try and defend the current president, Dilma Rousseff, and her cabinet, even though, yes, there was probably a lot of corruption scandals regarding the World Cup, but are there any programs that she implemented that are very good? Is the corruption result of FIFA rather than the host country? So you sort of want to say, look, if the players boycott the World Cup, we have two scenarios. One is nothing happens. Two is exactly what you said happens and the regime loses credibility or the regime loses power completely, and then you're in a much worse position for Brazil because X, Y, and Z is being done right now as we speak. We have sort of an increase of GDP, exports, and lots of stuff happening. All of these things are happening under the current president, and the boycott could maybe kill the regime, which is a bad thing for Brazil. So sort of like, think of, you want to defending the status quo can give you a lot of material to work with, so not just alternatives.
If you know a bit about the political structure and party structure of Brazil, you maybe could argue that the guys who would then substitute or replace Dilma are arguably more exploitive, if anything, and have their own oligarchic schemes, and so anyway, the poor, for example, which is a key stakeholder in this debate, would probably get worse off, as they have been, well, increasing in living standards in the regime of PT.
So do you guys have any questions regarding feedback?
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Okay, so I would like to point out some of the general thoughts. You might keep in mind structure, so more mapping and flagging. Tell us in one sentence what your speech is going to look like, like a contents of a book, so like map it out. Make sure you flag every time you start a new argument, because this helps in writing flows and then adjudicating tremendously. The second thing is keep in mind what type of argument you're making, if it's moral, if it's mechanic, and sort of like the things we picked up. And if it's I call it a mechanic argument, but it's more of a argument. So we do X and Y happens. When you have these types of arguments, then, like Ari said, make sure analyze who the actors are. Stakeholder analysis, that's pretty much 60% of everybody's speeches at any tournament. Analyze all the stakeholders, how they would react, how they would be affected. This always helps a lot. I mean, you need to create the plausibility and probability that the effects you're talking about, the change happening or change not happening, is quite probable. So I would say keep those things in mind. As far as just to slightly to add to the opposition, so try and follow their structure and engage more directly with the material. I think you kind of missed a bit on the morality of their arguments, because if nothing else happens, at least it's sort of the right thing to do by the Brazilian footballers.
Yeah. One thing that made me that helped me in developing arguments is to try to ask these two questions. Why is this true? And that will lead you to the mechanics that Victor was talking about. And then why is that important? And that's also something that he was talking about how you can charge your arguments and explain exactly why is this so important in Brazil. So that these two questions help you explain mechanics and help you enlarge your arguments in a way that maybe can help you make your arguments sound bigger.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if that's it, I'd like to thank you guys for this invitation. This was actually quite fun. I really enjoyed this. If you guys want to do this again before Zagreb, feel free to contact me. I'll see. We have lots of teams going to Zagreb, and I'm sure plenty of them will be quite happy to actually join you for a debate. Yes, the problem is a lot of people are now away going to Bulgaria for a tournament, and some of them are on holiday, so I didn't actually manage to get anyone. Also, I would like to plug in Rijeka Open that is happening on the 9th of August. If you guys are interested in doing prep tournaments, this one is really cheap and it's by the seaside. Book page and you'll find the links to it if anybody's interested in coming over. I'm going to be there. Maria Simic is going to be there. Tijana Mijalkovic, Teo Radetic, so a lot of very experienced debaters. It's a pretty good CA team. Stella Braja as well. If you guys want to hang out, have a little bit of a relaxation and some preparation for Zagreb UDC, this will be like a very good opportunity.
Okay, thank you. You can
thank you.
Your Facebook page, yeah?
Yeah, just look at my Facebook page. There is a link right there. And hope to see you guys a couple times soon before Zagreb.
Well, on my behalf, I'd just like to thank Victor and thank you all for the invitation, say that I enjoyed the debate and hope to see you in Zagreb as well.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Что, ребята, мы одни с вами?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.